Let's start the proceedings, shall we? Our sort of end of the year, our year in review award show. So we have some awards, some categories that we want to give out. We're going to tackle general winners and losers, awards in journalism. And then, of course, we have the best picture category, the ultimate top prize of Dissident of the Year. That'll be last at the end of the night. But let's start out with our winner of the year in 2022. The winner of the year goes to Lula da Silva, defeating Jair Bolsonaro, the incumbent president of Brazil. This was obviously a huge victory. This is probably the best news for the left all year. And I know there are certain hardcore people who have certain problems with Lula, but what I would say is, look, if for no other reason than their stances on the environment, on the Amazon rainforest, right? The Amazon, commonly referred to as the lungs of the world. Bolsonaro's stance was, no, the Amazon are not the lungs of the world. They are the treasure of Brazil, meaning we're going to strip it and sell it for parts, right? Yep. So if for no other reason than that, and there are plenty of other reasons.
The Amazon is the 1992 Toyota Tercel in a chop shop.
Right, exactly. So for no other reason than that, it was good that Lula won. And a huge victory. I mean, the arc from president to political prisoner to president again is a pretty epic one. And so Lula Livre, winner of the year, no doubt. Any thoughts on that one, Russell?
Yeah, that was a rare bright spot in the year, particularly a bright spot for Glenn Greenwald.
Right.
And probably one of the greatest acts of it. This didn't make our number one malpractice of journalism, but when they tried to claim that Glenn Greenwald was against Lula, that was amazing. Like that was maybe we should have had a category: war is peace, ignorance is strength, freedom is slavery award. That would have been it when they claimed that Glenn Greenwald was anti-Lula. That was amazing.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That could have been like the 1984 award. You know, we could have done something like that.
Exactly.
Although there's stiff competition for that as well.
There really is.
All right, our next award of the night, everybody. If we're going to have a winner of the year, we have to have a loser of the year. Now, we hate to be predictable. We hate to be conventional. What do we always say? A show is not a show unless it's surprising. But there are certain picks that are obvious for a reason, and this is obvious for a reason. The obvious loser of 2022 is Donald Trump. There's no question about this. Donald Trump single-handedly turned what should have been a historic red wave into a tiny red trickle by injecting himself into the midterms. All Donald Trump had to do was keep his mouth shut and stay out of it. Let the primary processes play out. Let the Republicans nominate who they wanted to. A lot of his more insane candidates like Dr. Oz and Herschel Walker would not have gotten through, and the Republicans would have flipped the Senate very easily, and they would have rode a lot more momentum in the House, even with Roe, right? It was a combination. It wasn't just the Roe overturn. It was a combination of the Roe overturn and the weak candidates, right? Because even with the Roe overturn, Oz still came very close in Pennsylvania. Yeah. Walker still came very close in Georgia. So it was a combination. You can't blame it all on Roe. A lot of it was Donald Trump sticking his dick into the punch bowl and just pissing in it and fucking up what should have been a historic red wave. So there's absolutely no doubt about it that he is the loser of the year. And the image is worth 1,000 words. That's not a doctored image. That is a Trump NFT trading card, which is his latest major announcement that he's made. Horribly photoshopped artwork selling for $99 a piece, a digital non-entity. So yeah, no question about that.
Yeah, well, especially now that everybody woke up to the fact that NFTs are just a scam and stopped buying them anyway. Now he wants to get it. Maybe a digital monkey isn't worth $500,000.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Who'd have thought? So now he's getting into the NFT space. Yeah, this is where, I'm still hearing from people who just are so set in the idea that Trump has some kind of special voter voodoo. They just can't believe that DeSantis is going to blow him out of the water. And I keep saying, wait and see. I look at these midterms. That was a prelude to how Trump will do in a midterm against DeSantis. Because look, the first time DeSantis really lands a shot on him in the debate, there's going to be a palpable shift in momentum in that race. All it's going to take, people are just going to wait to see, well, is he going to be able to put DeSantis in a box? Is he going to, as soon as he says Ron DeSanctimonious and he comes back with something about how his midterms went versus the Florida midterms, and Trump gets stammered or stuttered or knocked back, that's it. People forget. Look, if you look back at the Trump-Hillary debates, Trump didn't do well. It's just that Hillary Clinton is so fucking awful that people were like, I'm still voting for him. People have this false idea that Trump did so great. He just has this magic. He was running against Hillary Clinton. That's it. Three reasons Donald Trump became president: Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton, and Hillary Clinton. All right. You put him up there, and he's not, Ron DeSantis is not Jeb Bush. All right. That's another example of Trump was very lucky in his opponents. You put him up against DeSantis, DeSantis is going to squash him like a bug.
Well, he already has a lead. I mean, last couple of polls showed DeSantis already had a lead. So there's already been a momentum shift. I mean, it was so dramatic that we almost named DeSantis the winner of the year, right? Because in a sense, he was one of the big winners of the year, right? But yeah, I mean,
he was the only one who came out of those midterms smelling like a rose.
Exactly, right. He's the one who actually executed the strategy that the Republicans thought they were going to be able to execute nationwide, right? And now he emerges as pretty much the front runner for the nomination. I mean, last couple of polls have him beating Trump. Trump's own family doesn't even want him to run again. Like, the writing is on the wall.
I think this was in the Free Press, Barry Weiss's newsletter. Somebody wrote an article about DeSantis Democrats, because you had all of these Democratic counties in Florida that had gone for Joe Biden by like 20 points that flipped to DeSantis by 20 points, making like a 40-point swing in the direction of the Republicans. And the article was making the argument, you could, if DeSantis runs, you could see the Reagan Democrats redux. You could see all these traditional Democratic voters flip over to DeSantis. Only whereas last time, the article didn't make this point, but I'm making it. Last time, those Reagan Democrats were the traditional blue-collar Democrats. This time, it'll be the suburban people. It'll be the suburban libs who flip to DeSantis.
Some of them. It depends on how much Kool-Aid they've consumed. Yeah, exactly. I mean, these races are going to be called on the margins, obviously.
Listen, Loudoun County, okay? There's a lot of this culture war shit that a lot of liberals, Democrats, they don't like it. And if DeSantis can pull a Youngkin and run as the non-scary guy who's going to protect them from that, yeah, he's going to flip a lot of those suburbanites just like Youngkin did.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's certainly something that will happen. It's a question of how severe that move will be, but it doesn't have to be that severe, right? Because a lot of these states are very, very tight. Cortex 36, love the show, boys. Thank you so much. We appreciate that, Cortex. Tusker says Ron DeSantis is a psyop, and a lot of MAGA is falling for it. Psyop is a little bit of that implies that there's, that he is a puppet for some other forces. Whether that's true or not, I mean, you could certainly say he will function that way because he is much less averse to the sort of foreign policy establishment than Trump is. And so it is a way of sort of, smoothing over some of that friction with the MAGA people to get them to go along with some of the foreign policy stuff that Trump just would not, which we'll get to that actually a little bit later. But speaking of journalism,
that's another reason. You watch how all these resistance journalists You watch how fast they put on the knee pads for DeSantis as long as he cozies up to the intelligence state and doesn't say anything terribly mean to the
Right,
people at
right.
the New York Times. They were ready to embrace Trump when he bombed Syria. They were ready. Oh, tonight he became president. Van Jones, the leftist over at CNN, praising him for dropping bombs on Syria. But he didn't play. He didn't play along. That's why they kept going after him. If Trump had just that night started to play ball, all would have been forgiven. They
Right.
did.
Of
They
course.
did it with Bush, a Supreme Court appointed president. All of a sudden, as soon as the Supreme Court made that decision, they start writing glowing puff pieces about his banker's hours and the way the Oval Office runs under Bush. I remember those articles, Newsweek, all the usual suspects. That's exactly what they will do with DeSantis, as long as he doesn't piss off the wrong people like Trump did.
Oh, sure thing. Sure thing. All right, let's move on here. We talked a little bit about Barry Weiss. We have a Journalism of the Year award. For Best Journalism of the Year, we have to give it to the Twitter Files team. Matt Taibbi, Barry Weiss, Michael Schellenberger, Lee Fong, David Zweig just put out a piece. He's part of the Free Press. Yeah, that was a pretty badass piece of journalism. And not only was it, I think, a major leak, a sort of monumental moment for technology, for the internet, for social media, for speech, but also, obviously, the inventiveness and the sort of experimental form in which that news was broken, I think, was really, really cool. And so I can't think of a more worthy winner of that one.
Yeah, I'm still picking that nothing burger out of my teeth, Keaton. I mean, of
Well, we
course the
almost called it the
security
Nothing
state.
Burger of the Year, right?
Yeah, of course the security state works hand in hand with tech companies. What's wrong with that? There's nothing more here than government alerting tech companies to the danger of election interference. Yawn.
Yeah,
Yawn.
you're right. Yawn. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Anyway, yeah, I mean, we've basically been making our case about that. It's a fairly recent story, so we don't have to elaborate too much on it now. But obviously, I think that was the best journalism work of the year by far, and the most significant, despite the media and Congress
Well,
people like Ted Lieu insisting over and over again, nothing to see here. These are just people making decisions, right? They're people coming together, making decisions about how to
yeah.
moderate content. Yeah, exactly.
And also the Twitter Files, I don't think anything has served so well to show people's true colors since Hillary versus Sanders, because you are seeing the real shit livery come out with that. The Majority Report, what was the one we were talking about before? Left Reckoning, what
Yeah,
are they
Left
called?
Reckoning. Yeah.
Left
I mean, that's
Reckoning.
basically an offshoot of the
They're all
Majority
doing
Report because Matt Leck is a producer on the Majority Report.
it seems like they have the same exact take. They're all just attacking Taibbi personally rather than to really take on his points. They're doing all the tricks, capturing some very unflattering still in an interview to make him look crazy, all that shit. It's fucking disgusting to be in this space and to be spreading the same propaganda you would see on MSNBC. It's just disgusting. That you want to talk about a psyop? That's a psyop. When I see those people, Hunter Thompson used to say that very often in a joking way. Who pays you to say these things? I always think of that when I see these motherfuckers. Who's paying you people? Like, why are you in this space? What are you doing here? What is the purpose of you having an alternative media show? Why don't you just have a media show? Why don't you just go to the media?
Yeah, no, I think that's right.
Like are they paying you to be in this space? Like, what are you doing here?
Lloyd, Do Dissident's Best New YouTube Channel Award. Well, thank you very much, Lloyd. We appreciate that.
Thank you,
We'll
Lloyd.
take it from you.
Thank
We'll
you.
give our acceptance speech here. But yes, thank you very much. All right, here's an award here for Hack of the Year. So this is Bad Journalist of the Year. Now, I gave this one to Russell in the spirit of the holidays. I didn't argue with him about this because I couldn't take this from Russell. I have to give this one to him. He picked here for Hack of the Year Taylor Lorenz. Now, if this were a dictatorship, I would have gone with the returning champion, uh, Thomas Friedman, because of his article, My Lunch with Joe. He wrote this huge op ed in the New York Times. It was really more of a personal essay than an op ed about his lunch at the White House with Joe Biden. And we actually did a reading of that article and a takedown of that article as a Patreon exclusive episode. I think it was back over the summer. And Friedman is one of these guys who it's really hard to dethrone him. That's like, if there's a hot TV show that runs for 8 seasons in a row, it just wins the Emmy for best drama series year after year after year because no one can touch it. Friedman's that kind of guy who is like, it's impossible.
Friedman is like the Sopranos of bad journalists.
Right, the Sopranos of bad journalism, right? Best drama series, Sopranos, hack of the year, Friedman, exactly. But I knew I couldn't break Russell's heart and not give him hack of the year, Taylor Lorenz. So go ahead.
Okay, well, now I'm going to carefully show what a fucking idiot you are, Keaton. Okay, so, first of all, Friedman, yes, as you point out, he's perpetually one of the worst actors out there. But he's an old school hack. And in some respects, I think he's so ridiculous in his fixations and his awful, notoriously awful writing. Yeah, I mean, talk about Taibbi. Some of the funniest writing Taibbi has done has been deconstructing.
Yeah, about Friedman.
He's left him alone lately. I think he moved on. Taylor Lorenz is a new kind of evil. Okay, you know what it reminds me of? Okay, for the comic book geeks out there, if you ever read the classic Frank Miller Dark Knight interpretation of Batman, as this middle-aged man returning to being Batman after being retired. There's this whole internal monologue he has when he's fighting this next generation criminal. And he's imagining what he would say to Robin about this. He says, "This is a kind of evil we never even dreamed of. We only fought humans." Okay, so that's how I see Taylor Lorenz related to Thomas Friedman. Thomas Friedman may have been a hack, but Taylor Lorenz is a kind of evil that Thomas Friedman has never even dreamed of. This is a really new brand of evil. Somebody who is going to invoke Women's Day to draw sympathy to herself, to her fucking literal Swiss boarding school privileged ass as a victim. Because people dare to attack her online, to attack a prominent journalist online. How dare these peasants talk back to her? And they talk back to her for very good reason. She keeps getting caught lying and misreporting and trying to destroy people's lives by eavesdropping on them online. She's not only a hall monitor, she's bad at it. She's a bad hall monitor. Right. She gets everything wrong. And then the Washington Post actually had to demote her and put an editor on her to triple check all of her work because of her misreporting. And now she comes out and defends China's lockdowns and starts attacking people who are questioning them. That is a kind of evil Thomas Friedman never even dreamed of. In the immortal words of Batman, Taylor Lorenz is something else. She's next level evil. She's a next level hack.
All right,
Friedman is Edward R. Murrow compared to Taylor Lorenz.
That's true. You make a good case. I suppose I'm just a sucker for the classics, is all.
That's it. You want to listen to Under the Boardwalk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I'm telling you, man, I mean, we've moved on. We're past that now.
There are a few shows like that with the Emmys and like with the Golden Globes that like even after they are no longer relevant, they still win the awards. You know what I mean? Like they still keep winning even though people don't really watch them anymore. There were a few shows like that. I can't really think of any good example off the top of my head. But maybe that's where I was coming
or
from.
sometimes you get those shows that where only critics really like that show.
Well, yeah, exactly.
You
Exactly.
know,
Right.
you get those once in a while.
Right.
Increasingly lately, like really, if you look at a lot of Rotten Tomatoes, it's really like an illustration of increasing disconnect between elite opinion and the public, because you'll see like 25% the public and 95% the critic.
Well, like a good
scores.
example of this now would be, I mean, I'm not going to say no one watches Succession, but I don't know of anybody who watches that show. Like, I don't know anybody who watches that show and loves that show, but it wins every award every year. It just keeps winning over and over again.
You know, it's funny you say that.
I don't know a single person who watches it. I've never seen an episode of it. I don't even know what channel it's on. I don't even know how to watch it.
A very close friend of mine is a TV executive, and she often points that out about Succession in particular.
Yeah, who watches
That's this show who, like, it's very critically acclaimed. Nobody's watching Succession.
No one
Nobody's
talks about it online.
I am. I like it.
You like
but
it, okay.
but I don't actually know anyone else who watches it.
Oh, you're the first person I know who watches it.
No, really, I don't. I literally don't know anyone else who watches it.
Yeah, no, you're the first person. I didn't know you watched it until right now.
I think it's very good. You know, it's done by the guy who did The Big Short.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
he really has a great eye
McKay,
and ear for the behavior and the lifestyle and the mannerisms of people who are so rich they don't understand how rich they are, like people at that strata. Like it's Succession. It's really his calling card. He really does have this talent for opening a window into that world in a way that you feel this is not somebody from the outside looking in, trying to speculate on what these people are like. This is somebody who knows what these people are like.
Right.
Showing you what it's really like among people like that. So Succession, it's fascinating on that level. And, you know, I mean, it's well done. Well, you know, all McKay's stuff is always well written and well directed. It's good.
No, I'm not saying it's no good. I'm just saying I don't know.
It's good, but no, but you're right. I don't know anyone who watches it.
All right, so we did our journalism awards. Now we're going to do a couple awards that Russell thought was a good idea, and I think he's right. I think this was a very good spin on the journalism genre. We're going to give our propaganda awards for best and worst propaganda of the year. So the best propaganda of the year, Russell came up with this, and this one I do think he's 100% right, is the Dark Brandon meme. That is, yes, that was the best propaganda of the year because it came at a time when Biden really needed a lift, and it came at a time when he signed that stupid IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act. Yep. Remember that, everybody? No, you don't. You know why? Because it was a bullshit act, right? And then he signs a Student Debt Forgiveness Act, which is now held up in court and probably not going to happen. But despite those two bullshit wins that he was able to notch for himself, they really parlayed that into this narrative that he was on fire. And this was Dark Brandon, right? On a roll. And it worked. It gave him not a huge bounce, but it gave him a slight bounce at a time where he really needed it. He really needed to get his poll numbers up even a little bit. And it did. So, yes, Dark Brandon was a very, very effective propaganda technique.
Well, then he did that whole show, that whole Pink Floyd tribute where he came out in the black leather with the red background. So yeah, thought ya might like to go to the show.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't think he had it in him. Yeah, that was very effective. For a minute, they managed to convince people, oh yeah, that senile old doddering fool. Yeah, no, we were all wrong about that. Actually, he's doing a great job. He's really competent and on top of it. For a minute, they were able to convince a bare majority of the public of that. And that is an incredible feat of propaganda to do that, to prop up that old mummy and convince people that he should be the president, even for a minute. That was impressive.
Yeah, no, I think that was right. Yeah, I think that
I will give it to his communications people.
Tusker, can you guys find the drum roll to play before the award announcements? You know, I actually contemplated doing that. We just didn't have a whole hell of a lot of time. Maybe I will try and find something and do it in real time. When Russell goes on an extended monologue, you know, maybe I will find the time to do that because that is actually a good idea. But thank you very much for the $5. All right, worst propaganda. This is an obvious choice, but in in such a deep sea of bullshit that has been sort of just spit out in our face this year, it could have been tough to remember this, but I thought Russell did a very good job in identifying the worst, the most pathetic propaganda of the year was the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. And the media trying to sell the world on the fact that Russia blew up its own pipeline. And so yeah, that has to be the worst executed propaganda job of 2022.
That it was so transparent. It was really, if there was ever a moment, if anyone doubted that this is state TV, that our supposed free press is state TV, that should have dispelled any notion of a free press. Watching them trying to, just with the same absolute conviction that they have about any other bullshit they spout, to just be sitting there. No rational reason. It defies all logic that Russia would give up its leverage that way. What is this doing for them? What does that do for them to blow up the pipeline? That way they can't cut it off and then use it as leverage by promising to turn it back on. But you watch the clips and they're all just, yes, no, well, we don't know for sure, but clearly Russia had every reason to do this. And then they never explain why that is. They just say it. Yes, Russia had every reason to do it. And then the act will nod. Oh, yes. So what are the possible consequences of it? Amazing. It's just amazing. Like they didn't even try to explain it. They just pushed it.
Just like the, so-called Russian missile landing in Poland, that just got memory hold, right? They just gave up. Okay, I guess we can't sell this one. I guess no one's buying it. We'll just give up. Act like it never happened.
Yeah.
No accountability for it. No, hey, maybe we shouldn't trust the guy who tried to sell the world on this in order to bait us into a world war. No, nothing. Just, okay, guess that one didn't work.
No.
Right? That's
well,
it.
and this week, the report came out showing there's no evidence that Russia was responsible. And you see this again and again and again and again with the corporate media. There's no accountability for any of these people. And that's because their job isn't really to report their news. Their job is to spread propaganda. So they've done their job. It doesn't matter. That's why there are no consequences for being constantly disastrously wrong. That's what they're getting paid to be. They're not getting paid to tell the truth. They're getting paid to tell the truth. They'd be in Flint. They'd be all over the country exposing how large swaths of the country are living in third world conditions. They would be exposing something we'll be getting into a little later, how all the people in Congress are stock geniuses. That's not what they're paid to do. They're paid to tell you Russia blew up its own pipeline. That's why nobody ever gets fired for those things when they turn out not to be true.
Right. Absolutely. All right. Tusker, I have good news for you. I found the drum roll that I think I have successfully uploaded. So our next award is for Sellout of the Year. This is one that the online left community really loves. So we have to throw some red meat to the base here. Sellout of the Year. Let's see how this happens. See, it's tough because I have to hit that and then I have to get over here within 3 seconds to hit the graphic. So forgive the delayed graphic here. But Sellout of the Year has to be Pramila Jayapal, chair of the so-called Congressional Progressive Caucus. Now, of course, the betrayal really began in 2021 when they broke their promise to not to separate the bipartisan infrastructure package with Build Back Better.
This year we had the sequel.
So this is the sequel. So that was in
this was Attack of the Clones this year.
Yeah, right, exactly. So it was really, it began in 2021, but it certainly continued this year. The CPC just demonstrating its worthlessness at every single opportunity, most recently with their writing and then subsequent retracting of a letter to Joe Biden saying, hey, maybe push for peace in Ukraine rather than just, reflexively signing checks for tens of billions of dollars worth of weapons and aid out the door. Maybe we should try and get a handle on this thing. Once they got a little bit of bad press for that, they pulled that back. Oh, we're sorry, we didn't mean it. I said that was most recent. That wasn't even most recent. Most recently, obviously, the CPC praised Zelensky's visit, saying, we commit to indefinite support for the Ukrainian military effort. Right. So that was the most recent one. That was just a couple weeks ago. But yeah, no doubt. I mean, she's been absolutely horrible, embarrassing, just a complete failure in a way that really just she embarrassed her whole movement. And, we did a show in October 2021 when those BBB negotiations were underway, back when she was promising to hold the line. We had Alexander Salmon, great writer on the show, talking about how, she can make a case that she should be the party leader in the next term. And we're like, yeah, you know what? If she does what she says she's going to do here, if she holds the line like she says she will, then yes, she would have a good case. So we did not have the knives out for her from day one. We gave her a real chance. We were very supportive of what she was doing in the early days of those talks. But we had a feeling that she would cave in the end, and we were right. And she's just been an absolute disaster since then. And so whether she's a sellout of the year or a coward of the year, she is certainly an absolute disgrace in that spot. And she is absolutely worthy of this award here.
Yeah, there's Jayapal, which I liked, friend of the show up here, gave her a nice nickname, Payapal. I like that one.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off, Russell. I know we're not supposed to cut each other off anymore, but Joey is on Facebook, and he commented, yeah, I'd give it to her also. Joey and I were part of a panel that our friend Lauren Steiner put together in the last days of those Build Back Better talks. And Joey and I actually talked for a while about this very issue, about me saying, and I think Lauren said the same thing, I think we're all on the same page. That was right before they caved, and we're like, they better not cave. If they cave, we're done with them. We're not going back. Now, I was not bluffing, and so that's where we are now. But, Joey, good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry, Russell, go ahead.
No, it's okay. There's absolutely no reason to have a congressional progressive caucus. Why? For what? They vote the same way Nancy Pelosi does. What are you there for? Why are we going to come out? And this is the
it literally exists
thing.
So that people like Hakeem Jeffries can buy their way into it and then call themselves progressive, which then gives them license to go and blow the health insurance companies, right?
Right. And that's why the progressives have been increasingly underperforming in primaries, because people like us who used to support them were done. We walked away. Why? So we could get more Jayapals, more AOCs. It's just not why. So they can say some really hard things to a CEO in a hearing once in a while, but then just go vote the way the CEOs want them to anyway. Or maybe if Pelosi gives them permission because they have enough vote anyway, they might get to vote against it once in a while, as long as it's not going to have any meaningful consequence. For what? Like we're all working people. We don't have time for that. We're not going to give you our money, and we're not going to be sitting there calling people for you when that's what we're going to get. Right. For that, we could just vote for Nancy Pelosi. Why do we need to break our asses trying to elect people like you, when once you get there, you're just going to throw us under the bus anyway?
Yep. Well said. Absolutely. All right. Well, it is that time of the evening. There's a time in every award show, the Oscars, the Emmys, the Tonys, the Grammys, the Golden Globes, where they pause not to remember the dead. Well, they do pause for that also, but that's not what we're going to do right now. There's no in memoriam section now. There is, however, a pause for a special award, a Lifetime Achievement Award. So this is not just for service this year, but this is a Lifetime Achievement Award, and the recipient of this award is retiring this year, at least in a certain way, right? She's not hanging it up entirely, but she is stepping
No,
down
no.
as Democratic Party leader. And so we thought we should take a little moment, a little time out, a little breather to honor for her lifetime achievement in blatant corruption Nancy Pelosi, a special lifetime achievement award. Russell, you felt strongly about this, so I'm going to cue up an exhibit of yours. But yeah, take it away. You can be the intro, right? Don't they always bring somebody up to introduce the Lifetime Achievement Award, to give a monologue about them, and then they
Yeah,
come up and they accept it?
yeah. Okay, so should I do like Hollywood kind of narcissism? She was a woman who
Yeah.
started out in the city of Baltimore, where her well-connected political family often lunched with the Kennedys. Um, I hate that shit. I actually can't watch the Academy Awards because of it. Like I like watching a room full of narcissists celebrate themselves. I just can't do it. I can't watch the Oscars. So yeah, Nancy Pelosi, the transparency of her corruption. Again, it's another thing where it's state TV. Nancy Pelosi should not be able to go anywhere without being asked, how do you outperform all the best investors in the world year after year after year? She shouldn't be able to show her face in public without being asked that. Look at this. You might, I'm a little bit of a stock geek, not crazy, but enough to know who all these people are. These are the greatest investors in the world, right? Warren Buffett did 20% in 2021. Pelosi, 69%. 69%.
Yep.
More than triples Warren Buffett. Now you're telling me, and this isn't a fluke year. This is every year. Every year, Nancy Pelosi outperforms the people who are recognized as the most savvy investors on the planet. The corruption, the inside trading is right out in the open. And yet she's allowed to walk freely. You or I, if I go down to the bodega right now and steal $100, I'm going to jail. She's stealing millions of dollars, and she's the Speaker of the House.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And for those of you who don't know, her picks are so reliable. There are stock services where you subscribe and they'll tell you what the Pelosi's are buying and selling, and everyone matches their trades because it's as close as you can get to a no-lose proposition because everybody knows their trades are based on inside information.
All right, so here we have, let's move on. Idiot of the Year. Did we put Idiot of the Year, Moron of the Year? Oh, yeah, Idiot of the Year. Okay, now, this one, we weren't really going to do this one, okay? We didn't really have in mind an Idiot of the Year award. But the recipient of Idiot of the Year is someone who began the year being suspended for making some of the dumbest comments I have ever heard uttered on TV.
Yeah.
And at the end of the year, meaning like what, yesterday? Doubled down on those comments, knowing how much trouble she got in at the beginning of the year. So she really bookended the year with her idiocy. Whoopi Goldberg, no doubt about it, Idiot of the Year. Idiot of the Year. So she begins the year by saying on camera that the Holocaust was not about race, which, again, on its face, like, you've never heard that the Nazis considered themselves a master race? You never heard the words master race. Like, what? What? You're on TV? You do a political talk show? The View is a political talk show, right? I mean, it's not.
Right.
It's not. PBS or it's not CNN.
It's a political talk show at the level that the people who would be home to watch it in the afternoon and would be interested in watching it would appreciate, which is not a very high level. That's what it is.
Yeah,
it's
right.
to appeal to people who are dumb enough for that to look like politics.
Of course, but it is ostensibly, nonetheless, a political show. How the host of a political talk show can keep her job after saying something like the Holocaust was not about race, even if you don't find it like morally reprehensible to the point where you would fire her on those grounds. It's grounds for firing just because she's too stupid. Like, how can you have a host of a show who doesn't know that the Holocaust was racist? That the Nazis considered themselves a superior race to the Jews? Like, how can you keep someone on the air talking about politics, talking about the issues of the day, when they don't have the just basic fourth grade knowledge of history that the Nazis were racist against Jews? She gets suspended for that. She learns from that. Okay, fine. You didn't know it. That's kind of inexplicably stupid that you didn't know it. But then at the end of the year, you give an interview to some, I think it was a UK outlet.
It was UK, yeah.
Where she doubles down on those exact comments. I mean, just absolutely astounding. I can pull up the quote, Russell, but I lost it because I had to find our drumroll sound effect. So
do you want me to share the article?
Yeah, it's okay. I have it.
Okay, so Whoopi, even before all this started, I have really been saying for a long time, she's too fundamentally stupid to be on TV talking about politics. And that's even relative to the show she's on. The moment that she confidently pronounced that Dr. Jill Biden should be the next Surgeon General. Oh, she's an amazing doctor, and embarrassingly embarrassed the women at the table. I don't think she's that kind of doctor. And it was a great moment where Whoopi goes, I could be wrong.
Right. After emphatically stating that she's an amazing
doctor.
Yeah.
All right. You're too fucking stupid to talk about these subjects at that point. Forget about the whole Sanders thing, which I never forgave her for. Because look, all the other rich ladies at that table have never seen the inside of a housing project. You have no fucking excuse. You have no fucking excuse for going out there and pretending that you didn't understand what the fuck Sanders was talking about. You have no fucking excuse for that. That combined with her fundamental stupidity. Somebody asked me today, but she's very talented. You know, they're talking about back in the day. She's been a joke for a long time, but back in the day, she was a Broadway actress.
Yeah, she's one of the last EGOT winners, right?
Yeah, she was a monologuist. You know, she did all this. And, you know, I said, no offense to my actor friends there are exceptions, but, you know, I've had this experience a lot with actors. You have a lot of great actors who have incredible emotional intelligence. Like, you can't hide your feelings at all from actors who have that much of a gift as an actor. Like, something flickers across your face, they'll catch it. And they'll be fundamentally stupid about everything else.
Right.
Like, in every other way, they are dumb as a fucking box of rocks. They just have this incredible emotional intelligence. The emotional intelligence is so high that they'll wind up imitating the people around them, which can actually make them look for a minute like they're intelligent because they're just repeating and throwing back what they're seeing, right? And then you dig in and you find out they have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. Like when you watch Tatiana Maslany defending She-Hulk. That was a great example where you could see she's surrounded by people who just talk all this fucking pseudo-feminist bullshit. And she's this great actress, but she's too stupid to actually understand what the fuck she's talking about. That is very common. She's a brilliant actress. If you ever watched Orphan Black, Tatiana Maslany is brilliant. But if you saw her in these interviews, it actually surprised me, and I shouldn't have been having this experience. But it surprised me how fucking stupid she was. You know, so it was just all like unthought about buzzwords. Like, there's this weird obsession with the bodies of Marvel females. Okay, man. Have you seen Thor? Have you seen the dude playing Thor? How many fucking times are they going to take his shirt off? Okay. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, you fucking moron? So I think that's the deal with Whoopi. You know, she's an actor. Very high emotional intelligence, at least at one time. But fundamentally stupid in every other fucking way. And this is a great example of a dumb actress being put in a position where she's talking about shit she shouldn't be talking about because she's too fundamentally dumb to start getting into such charged topics off the top of her head.
Yeah, so here was the interview that she gave for the Sunday Times, right? So she gives us a quote here. My best friend said, not for nothing, is there no box on the census for the Jewish race?
Oh,
So that leads me to believe.
I love this, how she makes a point of saying, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay, go ahead.
My best friend said. So she's pulling the some of my best friends are shit in a very subtle way. No, my Jewish friend said this, so I'm
my
not
best
saying
friend
it.
who went to Yale said, not for nothing. There's no box on the census for the Jewish race. So that leads me to believe that we're probably not a race. We're probably not a race. So maybe it was her Jewish friend, right? We're probably not a race. Right?
Well, no, that was the whole point.
Okay.
That was the whole point. She's hiding behind
a Jewish
the fact
friend.
that her best friend,
her best friend who
happens
to be Jewish,
is one of the nasally challenged people.
My best friend George Santos, who happens to be Jewish, says that he says he's Jewish, and there's no reason to doubt him. The interviewer points out that Nazis saw Jewish people as a race in the Holocaust. Okay, so then she says, yes, but that's the killer, isn't it? The oppressor is telling you what you are. Why are you believing them? They're Nazis. Why believe what they're saying? Now that you talk about some lib spin on a thing, right?
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Talk about some liberal spin. The oppressor is telling what you are. Don't believe them. They're Nazis. As if the oppressor is not a trustworthy source of information about who you are. The oppressor of the Jews did not misidentify Jews as Jews. They didn't mistake Christians for Jews. No, they understood you were Jews, and they hated the Jews because they were Jews, right? People who are racist against black people, they don't mistake Hispanic people for black people. No, they know you're a black person. They don't like you for that, and that's why they're wrong to dislike you. But they're not wrong about who you are. Oh, you're gonna take a Nazi's word for it that they're a race? Well, no, that's the whole point. That's what bigotry is. Bigotry is I identify a group of people who I don't like and I persecute them. That's the whole thing. The problem with racism is not that racists misidentify what groups they are oppressing. The problem is they're oppressing them, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's another example of how fundamentally stupid she is. She half digested some CRT crap and regurgitated it in this form. But again, she's just too dumb to use it in a way that's effective, that is not just transparent, that she's trying to say something she knows she shouldn't say, and at the same time protect herself from criticism by wrapping herself up in language that she perceives to be unquestionable because of its cultural cachet.
Right, exactly. A drum roll. Okay, so we have two more awards. We have the Idiot of the Year, which we just did. This is a related award. This is Asshole of the Year. This is Villain of the Year, right? Lot of contenders for this one as well, but we have chosen, and only true Dissident fans will get this reference at first, but we think this is the right pick for Asshole of the Year, and that is, of course, Jake Sullivan, pictured here. Now, Jake Sullivan is a real person. Jake Sullivan is an advisor to the Biden White House. But we have mentioned Jake Sullivan on this show as a sort of emblem of the sort of faceless, nameless, permanent, deep state military industrial complex that is running the world right now. Because, of course, you have a non-entity in the White House. And so we are being led into the Third World War by an army of Jake Sullivans. And so we were going to say that the Pentagon was the asshole of the year, the military-industrial complex was the asshole of the year, but we felt like we should personalize it a bit more. And we thought that Jake Sullivan is sort of, this picture right here says it all.
The
right?
banality of evil.
The banality of evil. Jake Sullivan, asshole of the year. We've mentioned this on the show before, that as bad as Obama was a human being with a human brain in the White House who came to the human decision that Ukraine would never be worth to the United States what it is to Russia. Therefore, we are not willing to spill blood over this. We are not willing to throw the world into war over this. You don't have that now. You have a non-entity in the White House, which means you have this guy, a team of guys like this, running the world right now. We don't know who they are. We didn't vote for them. There's no way to hold them responsible for anything that they do. If you do, they'll just replace one Jake Sullivan with another Jake Sullivan. They'll promote the next Jake Sullivan. And so Jake Sullivan, asshole of the year.
It is. You can't say the man in the gray flannel suit anymore because it's much more diverse group of people bringing us to the brink of World War III now, which is some comfort, right? I mean, if the world has to end, it should be at the hands of a trans person of color.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Maybe in 10 years, this nameless, faceless guy will have a different name. But since Jake Sullivan is an advisor,
it might be Jane Sullivan.
Yeah, right.
And I am fully prepared to affirm Jane in her new identity.
Well, that's the thing. Jake Sullivan might become Jane Sullivan. Jake Sullivan might be named Jane Sullivan next year.
Yes. And we are going to embrace that, and we'll feel better about that, actually. That's the kind of apocalypse we can get behind.
Yeah, right. Exactly. All right. Should we give our final award of the night?
Yes.
All right. So this is the big one, folks. This is Dissident of the Year. And I'm not going to... All right. I'll do the drum roll, even though it's kind of... It's a little lame because I can't cue the other thing up in time. But Dissident of the Year is obviously the big one. This is the Best Picture award, right? This is the person who we crown the Rebel of the Year, right? And so here we go. Let's make this happen. Dissident of the Year goes to Chris Smalls, founder of the Amazon Labor Union. We think that we are very, very comfortable with that pick. It seems like 10 years ago already that this fight was won, but it was actually April of 2022 when Chris successfully led the effort to unionize the first ever Amazon warehouse right here in New York. And so we think he's obviously the worthy winner. This was after, 2 years of activism. He was fired in April of 2020, and then he started organizing through the end of that year into 2021. He was arrested several times. He was bullied in the press by the senior executives at Amazon, smeared, harassed, dismissed. They really threw the book at him, and he won. Now, there's a lot more work to do, obviously, but he's off to a start. He's off to a start, and look, if it goes no further, if that Staten Island warehouse is the only warehouse that ever unionizes under that company, that doesn't take away, even that would not take away just the monumental victory that was won there because of all of the blood, sweat, and tears that went into it. And so it's not even close. Chris Smalls, Dissident of 2022.
My favorite quote from him was right after they won that vote. He said, "We want to thank Jeff Bezos for going to the moon because while he was up there, we were down here organizing a union." Chris came on the show very early. I think, Jesus.
We interviewed him winter 2021.
Yeah, man, we probably had like 300-400 subscribers. It was cool.
Not even. We didn't even put that on YouTube right away. We put it on Facebook because we really had no YouTube channel.
Right. So he was very cool to even come on at that time. He was already getting pretty prominent. And that is an amazing accomplishment, especially after they literally emails leaked with, and this tells you what the people around Obama were really about, right? You're supposed to look at these people like they're anti-racist, right? I mean, by definition, they served the first black president. You got Jay Carney, Obama's spokesperson, now working over at Amazon.
Yep.
Was caught in emails talking about, in very coded racial terms, oh, he's not educated, he's urban, talking about how they can smear him. He's urban, like what do they say? What
Inarticulate, they call
he's
him.
Inarticulate. They called him inarticulate, which is actually quite the opposite. He's actually extremely articulate.
Yes.
So it really tells you how worthless those gestures towards identity politics are. It's a big part of why we attack it so much. It's not that we disagree with the theoretical aims, it's that they don't. That's what we're pointing out. They don't actually believe in those things. They claim to believe in them to hoodwink you so you don't look at their hands in your pockets. That's all that's about for them.
Right. Exactly. Very, very well said. Pretty proletarian. Good thing you guys don't read the nominees, because this category could have gone on all night. It's funny. Maybe next year what we'll do is we'll come up with nominees a month early, and then we'll put it to a vote for the audience, and we'll figure out a way to have you guys vote on them. That would be interesting.
That would be interesting.
We'll name 3, 4, 5 nominees per category, and then
I
bring it to a vote.
When I ran my vignettes for the Apocalypse Horror Sci-Fi Theater Festival every year, that was actually by audience vote. The audience voted on the awards. My awards were the Serlings.
Oh, okay, yeah. There you go. The Serling Awards. Yeah, that's a good idea. I like that idea.
So is this true?
He did. Yes, that is true.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
very cool.
Wore his Eat the Rich.
Deanna informed us Chris wore his Eat the Rich jacket when he met Biden in the White House office. That is a fucking badass.
Yeah, no. I mean, that's a policy of his. He doesn't alter his appearance when he does interviews or appearances. No matter where he goes, he reps his style, and I think that's a good choice.
Yep.
I think it's good. I think it's good to bring his true self and what he represents wherever he goes. Right? Don't put on a suit and tie. Hey, Zelensky didn't have to wear a suit, so why should Chris Smalls have to wear a suit?
Damn right. Damn
Exactly.
right. No, Chris Smalls is a great spokesperson for the modern labor movement. We were talking a little bit with Ike and Christoph about the intersection between the old line unions and these new unions. And, Christoph said they really don't have the juice to organize something as big as Amazon, that they're going to wind up having to ally with the Teamsters, or they're going to have to become part of a bigger, more established union. I'm not an expert on labor movements and labor laws, but that sounded pretty credible to me. And I hope that they do come together and form one nationwide movement.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it will take. Christoph was absolutely right about that. And that's become evident in, the subsequent efforts that they have waged to try and unionize other warehouses. It's really hard. I mean, it's very, very hard.
Right.
And, very often, I mean, it seems like you need a leader on the ground who's willing to put himself through what Chris put himself through to win Staten Island. Right. I mean, they came at him with everything they had, and it was partly because he used to work in that warehouse. He had a rapport with the workers in that warehouse, and he kept coming back and back and back.
Right.
There was a day when they were feeding lunch to the day shift. The cops actually came and arrested him, booked him. They spent a few hours in the house. They got out. They went right back to the warehouse and fed the night shift. Right. So that's what it takes. Right. And it's hard to find that. It's hard to find that anywhere. That's why he's the Dissident of the Year. Right. Because he's rare. He's very, very rare. Will you find a person, especially a working class person, in a precarious societal spot to begin with, being willing to take those kinds of risks, those kinds of chances.
You're going up against one of the world's richest. You're going up against Lex Luthor, basically. Right. Jeff Bezos is Lex Luthor. That's who you're going up against. And just that confidence, the sheer balls of it. Man, I would be afraid these motherfuckers would fucking Norma Ray my ass, man. Fucking
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'd be scared. But he took them on.
Please clap.